Welcome viewers to part 2 of this, I guess, expose or even like a review of the Xencelabs Medium Bundle, which is a medium-sized tablet, a pen tablet, as you can sort of see underneath and through here. Actually, one thing I didn't cover, didn't cover everything that came with the actual tablet itself. I'd strongly suggest that you look at nearly every other review, or any other review, actually, not every one, but any other one, because a lot of them do, most of them do unboxings. I really don't like doing those sorts of things, so I purposely didn't do it. But in hindsight, I actually forgot a few of the things that the product does come with. Now, I know I was very thorough in my approach with the actual software and how to make use of it. So I think I did a good job of that, but I didn't actually go through some of the other options that you do actually have available. The tablet itself does come with a little case with your pens in it. I'm just going to open it up here and have a bit of a look, and there are quite a few. Like, there's 10 different spare nibs. There's the 2 pens that you can sort of see through here, the 3-button pen and the thin pen. But there's also an adapter which goes from USB, USB 3 to, or hang on, USB to USB-C. Basically, essentially, there's an adapter there if you do need to have like that sort of adapter. There is also a wireless dongle that you can actually plug into your computer as well. It's not Bluetooth. It is actually wireless. I haven't tested that because I haven't really had a need for it. The one thing that I think I would like with the dongle would be just to get that extra centimetre of space, or actually, when you set the tablet up, there's like out through the top through here. There is actually, like, this is where the connection is for the USB connection, and by default it has like a sideways one that goes on the side of my quick keys, and it has like a one that just comes straight out of the back through here for the actual tablet itself. What I found is I've switched them around just so I can actually get a little bit extra space for my keyboard to sit close to the actual tablet itself. And then it does save it like maybe 20 millimeters, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's, if you are using your keyboard, and invariably you will have to, then that is one of those little sort of things that do make a bit of a difference. So I've now got the quick keys now comes up straight out, and the other one comes off to the side. In fact, what I prefer to have would be 2 coming off the side. That would actually be ideal. But that's not to be the case. So anyway, that's just the way that sort of then works. But I find that this is more convenient for me because at least the keyboard is closer, even if the other section is a little bit sort of skew-if as such, in terms of, like it's a little bit more. It's now got the problem of not fitting nice and neatly into the space. So anyway, I didn't cover the fact that there is actually a wireless with this one. I've since been using the tablet quite a bit, and I will now just go through the setup that I used for particularly Photoshop and Illustrator, and I haven't really done much tweaking with that because I don't use Photoshop much for illustration. And that's the other thing too. I've been trying to sort of think, what's the usage of this? Like if you're watching this video, like you could be anything. I'm a graphic artist. That's a graphic designer. That's my basic function, which means that when I'm doing corporate identities or logos, anything to do with sort of like more high-end style logos, I very rarely have to actually use the tablet anyway for that sort of work. It's mainly mouse after I've done my sketches, and I do my sketches in Clip Studio, not in Photoshop. But in this case, I'm going to use Photoshop to sort of do the sketching and then bring them across into Illustrator for the main part of this particular video, just to sort of get into it. Right, well, that was about it. One thing I have done, I'll just go through and do a quick summary as to what I've actually got now set up. So I've got my generics. I have now turned back on Windows Ink for everything. Windows Ink has been, I guess, the biggest stumbling block that I've actually had for any issues that I've had with the tablet. And you'll see I've got like a few different programs here now. So I've got Clip Studio Paint, which, as I say, is just, I find this program just unbelievably good for doing any sort of sketching or artwork. I do actually also have Artrage, which I just did test out. Now, again, this is terrible with Windows Ink turned on, and it really is a big problem. So I will go through briefly what I've had to do there to make Artrage work. Artrage is one of those things I probably won't. I don't even think I would ever use it really again, even though I've just bought the new version. This is the new version of Artrage. I don't know why I got it, to be honest, because Clip Studio does everything that I want it to do. I think it's because you can get sort of like more thick media in this one. It does actually model thick paint, and so if I wanted to do sort of something where it looks a bit more real in terms of it being sort of like a some actual oil paints, then Artrage does do a good job of that. But that's about the only real usage I had from it. But I was very disappointed with the setup for Artrage until I tweaked Windows Ink, and I'll go through that in this episode as well, just what I did through there. Now, as far as setting up the Adobe Illustrator, not a problem at all. What I've done is I've changed these colors so that Adobe Illustrator, when it starts, will come up red. Photoshop, I've actually got this one down as a dim blue, just so and it does stand up out quite nicely. As I'm actually clicking these, the tablet is now sort of showing the lights as they come through, and it is quite nice to sort of be able to quickly sort of see the differences there between everything. In fact, if I just go that one up to medium, I might just make that one medium. And Artrage, I sort of kept that one down with the purples down through this side as well. So they're the functions, I guess, in through here. I'm surprised at how much I'm now checking to see that the tablet is in that mode of the program with these colors. It's actually something I'm actually now looking at. It's sort of one of those things where I'm thinking, oh, okay, look, has it gone from yellow? In fact, what I might do is even turn that one completely off, so I can actually have that one turned off, so that actually, no, you still do see it. I'll keep it on dim. But I'm finding that I'm looking down to see what has kicked in as the programs are actually opening up, and so that has become, these little corner areas have actually become quite useful, I've got to say, over time, which is surprising to me. I didn't think that they would, but anyway, they actually are. In terms of the setups, I had no real problem with Adobe Illustrator, and I'm going to be mainly using Adobe Illustrator today because I want this to be sort of like if you're more of a graphic artist, then hopefully this will sort of be more down your alley rather than more of an illustrator. More of the Illustrator, I'd suggest you have a look at the Clip Studio one that I did last time, just to sort of see if you like what you see there. I still have a problem, and I showed in the last one where when I was drawing circles very quickly, I was getting a little straight line. I've noticed other people have had the same problem in other programs as well, and I've also had that. When I was trying to set up Artrage, that was horrific until I actually got rid of Windows Ink, and then it sort of started to work okay, and I had to make some settings in Artrage. If I've got time, I will actually just quickly go through the settings for Artrage, just so you can sort of see how I did then tweak that. So anyway, I'm a bit all over the place here, but I'll then just go through. Photoshop, I had an awful lot of trouble setting up with the tablet. But having said that, it's exactly the same problem that you have if you're trying to set it up and you're having troubles with a Wacom tablet. Now, I don't have a problem with my old Wacom tablet because my old Wacom tablet was old enough to not be relying on Windows Ink. Windows Ink seems to be like a diabolically bad sort of addition, and I've found that in the past in other computers that I've had with using the Wacom tablet. I've had to really be very, very strict in my setup for that one. So I'll show that setup as well to get Photoshop to work. It took me a long time to get Photoshop to work. It was really, really bad. The thing I was finding was I just wasn't getting any pen pressure. Look, I won't show the problems, but I will show certainly the way around that, and I'll do that one fairly early on in this particular thing. So when I go across of this particular video, not thing, when I go across to here, I haven't really changed any of the settings because I don't really use this for much else. Now, if I go back to Clip Studio, I have changed a few things with my setup for Clip Studio. And actually, when I did the video last time, I actually set up the wrong area for my quick keys. So what I've done is I've now got like a draw and sketch, and so it's more draw and inking back in through here. Like if I just go and rename this, so I renamed sketch to and it's really going to be more inking. So I've got like what I have done is I've kept them the same. Now for inking, rotate canvas is critically important, whereas for drawing it's not. I don't really rotate, but I've kept them the same with everything that I've now done. I've got my brush minus, brush plus back in through here. The zoom on this, so the right hand side is really just for the zooming in and out and and changing the brush size. I still have modes in through here where I haven't changed these at all. I tend to be automatically defaulting to the subtool, so I'm just sort of keeping it on subtool at this stage. I'm finding that more useful if I've got the zoom in, zoom out through in through here. I found that the grab hand was super important to actually have, so I've still got that one through there. Undo just the color, so I can flip between like a transparency and the actual color itself. One trouble I did actually have with this was the double the double click. And so what I have done with the pen tablet is I've put on Clip Studio double click into the middle button, because I didn't need the pen pressure settings in there, so I've just gone straight to double click for that one there. And I did actually disable all of these, because I find that with my Wacom tablet, I tend to accidentally be pressing these all the time, and they only have like 2 buttons, but I found that these are the pen for the Xencelabs is actually the buttons are a little bit stronger, so you can't just, like, I mean, you could accidentally be clicking it if you wanted to, but I'm finding that I think I'm going to try to get used to using that middle button, which is actually the most prominent of the buttons. So it's going to be the easiest one to use as a double click. So I'm just going to try to see if that's any good. If I'm finding that I'm accidentally clicking that all the time, I am going to disable that and just rely on the Xencelabs one in the top there. I did actually have the double click in one of these, but I think it's just as easy to have it in that middle button at the top. And if I'm finding that I need to be doing it without watching, I'll probably change. Actually, no, I won't change all of them across the top. I'll just leave them where they actually are. So that was sort of like just a bit of a summary as to where I ended up with the My Quick keys for Clip Studio. As I say, I haven't changed for Photoshop. It comes with a sketch and a paint anyway. And it's got things, for example, like fit in view, you've got the space, the Alt, the Control, the Shift. So the space is essentially your grab hand anyway. You've got undo, redo. I haven't changed any of these. I can't see any real need to use those. And then with the paint as well, you've got the switch color. I don't know if a sketch would also be useful for that. But anyway, they do have a few little extra things. The brush panel, the color panel. This is good stuff, actually, I've got to say. I do like the idea of doing this one. I've sort of left this one on default, just so I may copy this across ultimately to Studio as well, and just sort of see how that one does go. And by the way, they're just controlled by this button here. So this button then will just flick between these two different things. You can have more sets coming on in as well. So that sort of works in fairly nicely. And with the Artrage didn't have a preset, so it really, like Artrage, had to be sort of set up. But if we go back to the pen tablets, you'll see that I've now got Windows Ink set on. I've turned it on for everything, because I have changed my Windows Ink settings. One thing I've had to turn it off for, though, is Artrage. Artrage really struggles with it, and I think that's a reflection. Well, Windows Ink is a problem anyway, so just be aware of that. Microsoft have done I always bash at Microsoft, but I find that they do a job about 70% and then don't do it for professional use, unfortunately. And it's sort of things like Windows Ink is much more for the Surface Pro and touch screens and things like this, which is not what this tablet actually is. And so all of those touch screen elements seem to get in the way. So it sort of becomes it's not smart enough to know when it should be doing that and when it shouldn't be. You've got to set that up yourself. Once I set it up, I found that it was then working nicely in Clip Studio, because previously I had to have this one turned off, and it also was essential, absolutely essential, to get it working in Photoshop. There was one other little tweak with Photoshop as well, and I'll show you what that actually is. Now, first of all, the initial thing we need to do is to go into the app data area of your computer. So just type in the URL sort of thing through. This is Windows Explorer. So %appdata%. By the way, if you're using a Mac, you may have other problems or no problems. I think that Windows is the one that's going to have most of these sort of issues. So this is definitely for Windows users. So %appdata%, just press enter. That will then take you into your app data roaming. From there, you'll sort of find your Adobe area. You'll then find the various Adobes that you've got. Adobe Photoshop 2020 is the one that I'm actually using here. You then go into Adobe Photoshop 2020 settings, and in through there, you need to create a new area. Like if you just right-click in through here, new text document. So just create it. Actually, I'll just do it at the top here so you can sort of see what it looks like. New text document through there. Sorry, I forget that I'm clipping the screen to try to keep this nice and neat and big. Then with that, just change the name of the text document to psuserconfig.txt. I'll just open this one up. And all you're going to type into here is use system stylus space 0. So use system stylus space 0, and then that then tells Photoshop to use this, like to not use the system stylus. Essentially, you're turning off the system stylus. You will have to restart possibly your whole system. I know I did at that point, but before I did that, I then just did go in and actually change some of the other things as well. So I'll just go through the changes to Windows Ink. Now just open up your settings, like the computer settings, and then just go to devices. And then from the side there, you'll then see Pen and Windows Ink. Just go and click on that one. And what I did was I just turned everything off. So where it says, in fact, I'll just bring that one down so you can see it. So hang on 1 second. Where are we? There we go. So Pen and Windows Ink. So choose which hand you write with. That's fine. And I turned off all of these. 3 of them were on. This one wasn't on. And so I just basically got rid of all of those. Handwriting, I just left that unscathed. The Windows Ink workspace, I just changed the click once to nothing, double click to nothing, and press and hold to nothing. I think that may have already been nothing anyway. And I think that was it. Yeah, that was pretty much it. And so with those, it basically you're just telling them not to use it. And this is all about the Surface Pro. So it's still, the Windows Ink is sort of to try to make it so that the Surface Pro would work effectively. And it's then been used a lot by the the various programs, whether it be Photoshop, Clip Studio, but not Artrage. Artrage didn't actually make use of the Windows Ink at all, and that's what has caused, I guess, big issues with the Artrage way of working. Even with the latest version of Artrage, it hasn't embraced Windows Ink, which, I mean, there may be reasons for that, but it's sort of a bit surprising because everyone else has actually gone to Windows Ink many, many years ago. Actually, what I'll quickly do is, if you are an Artrage user and you're sort of wondering how to get that working for Artrage, because again, that was a big problem. It just, the pen pressure wasn't working at all with this one. We'll just quickly go and do this, and it'll only take a couple of minutes. So just this one here, turn off Windows Ink because it doesn't use it. So with that one, everything else I've got Windows Ink turned on, but with this one here, you do need to keep that one turned off. So that's the first thing. Look, and probably the easiest way to sort of see the settings is just to use one of the pencils. I'm just using hard and dark, or you can use the hard tip or something like that. Keep away from the auto smooths at this point when you're just trying to sort of test them out. But if I just go and use this one at this point in time with this one, actually I'll just zoom in so that you can see what is going on here. I'm just zooming into the top corner, and I'm just using the pen. So I'll just go across. So hang on. This OBS thing gets a bit sort of tricky. So back in through here, if I can sort of, I do actually have like the thick thin is sort of working quite effectively in Artrage. This wasn't doing this. Also, when I was drawing circles, you can see it now. It's very, very responsive, which it wasn't doing when I was doing it before. It was actually still doing that first straight line before it then sort of do the circle. But this is now very, very responsive. Unfortunately, Clip Studio is not. So the Clip Studio settings are still making this little funny straight line, which I don't know why. Anyway, that's working out fine in through there with this one here. But to do that, what you need to do is just go across up into Edit, and then just go to your Artrage Preferences, and I'll just move them across so you can sort of see them. Then go to your input device, and what I did was I turned on WinTab, so use WinTab. This is the old version essentially of Windows Ink. This is before Windows Ink came, they were using WinTab, so make sure that that's turned on. And I did turn on Precise Tablet, and I turned off Use Real-Time Stylus, because I think that again is much more about the Surface Pro, and that's sort of approach. So for using the Xencelabs tablets, I found that this was actually gave me a good result with just the setup. So that was actually important just to get those little elements in through there. That's Artrage, so that one's done. Now you will get, when you click on OK, it's going to say that it needs to be restarted to sort of for these things to kick in, even though we haven't done anything. But that is actually there. And I've got to say, the Artrage, would I recommend Artrage? Probably not, really. Not in comparison, and not unless you really have a use for the as I say, the more thick media with Artrage itself. All right, so we've just come into Photoshop now. This is sort of set up. It is actually all running with the tablet. As I say, I had horrific problems trying to get it all set up. If you do need to change your settings, you're better off doing that back in the Xencelabs settings, so that you can sort of, if I bring them up and through here, I can then just sort of press the tablet at like the button at the top in through this side just to bring this one up. Go into, in fact, if I do the right click, I'll just get rid of that one and just press the right hand one. Oh no, I got rid of that. Sorry, I got rid of it. One thing it does do, the right hand side does change which screen we're looking at, so I do need to flick that one back to just this left hand side. But the 3-button pen, if you are wanting to tweak the pen pressure, unlike Clip Studio where you can do most of that actually in the program itself, this one here I found that it's easier just to do this from here. Just go to your advanced settings, change what you want to change. It's a bit it doesn't really give you a good feel for it in here. I think you're better off trying to do this in the program. Come back to this one just by pressing that like a hotkey to bring it back in, just to sort of tweak your pen pressure. So maybe pen pressure actually is an important one in this instance, to sort of bring that one across. I'll just go OK and click this one back in through this side. In fact, you can see there for Photoshop, that's Artrage. This one is still adjust pressure. So if I do want to do that one, I can just press the middle button. It goes straight to here for the pressure of the pen that I'm actually using. So that's how you would then sort of tweak your pen pressure using the Xencelabs setup. Now I'm going to be, as I say, doing some graphic art with this. So what I'm using is just one of the pencils. So I've just got like a pencil which does sort of have like the whole range of things. You can see there again, this is very, very responsive, more responsive than the Clip Studio pencil. We're not getting those sort of straight little lines as we sort of do it. It's a bit light on for what you're sort of seeing through there. So what I'm going to do through here is I'm just going to go and literally start sketching something. I haven't really thought much about this, but I'm thinking of doing something with what's called a Budgie Smuggler. So that's the I'll just write that one there. Now what that is, a budgie is a bird. If you've like it's sort of like a little lorikeet type thing. So you've got like a bird in there, and a smuggler. I'm just going to make a budgie as a smuggler, but in a graphic style. So I don't want this to be illustrative, I want it to be graphic, and I will then be making a t-shirt and some other merch from it. So if you do want it, then by all means there will be links at the end of this video for the actual merch itself. And so what I want to do with this though is I want a vectorized version. So I'm going to do my concept sketching here in Photoshop, and then I'll move it across into Illustrator to then sort of do the actual artwork itself using the pen tablet in there. So this process is going to be me doing the designs for in Photoshop ready for Illustrator. And the smuggler, of course, actually, and what is a budgie smuggler? You probably have never heard of this term before. This is an Australianism. It's basically like when guys swim, they either use Speedos or they use board shorts. So they're the two sort of styles of swimming sort of attire. These are called budgie smugglers because this sort of region tends to make it look like it's a budgie that's being smuggled. So anyway, I thought it as a bit of a joke. I'd just do like I don't even know if I'll do the words. I think I'll just actually have it so that it actually just sort of does sit up there as something that can then sort of be made use of. So anyway, Budgie Smuggler is what we're going to be doing as the graphic. As I say, I don't know if I'll do words. I might sort of do an option with words. I'll probably do a few different versions. I might do a mono version, a coloured version, sort of fairly simple colours, because it is going to be for merch, and so I don't want this to be at all complicated. At the end of the day, what I need to have is a ping file for the way that this merch would be created. If it was going to be done in screen printing, I also want it to be screen printable, because that's always a good principle to sort of go by, and that would be to actually isolate specific colours for the screen print. And in this case, I'll probably try to keep it to minimal colours to sort of try to get that sort of to work. But I may end up doing a more illustrative one as well. So I'll think about that as we go into it. So with further ado, I'll now sort of start, I'll push this thing forward and get these designs done. Now this is sort of going to be the pencil sketch of it really at this stage. I'm going to now bring this across into Illustrator, and then once that's into Illustrator, I'm then going to create a vector version of this. Now I could do it like where I just basically create like a line version straight here in Photoshop, and actually it was, you know, like it felt nice, like the Photoshop. I mean, I do prefer Clip Studio, as I say, for this sort of stuff. This may be too thick down the bottom through here, but I do want to create a vector version. Now, the vector version does take a lot longer than doing this particular version, but I wanted to do an illustrative graphics treatment rather than just something that was going to be illustrative, purely illustrative. So this is much more, I guess, if you're a graphic designer, this would probably be more the workflow that you would take if you were doing something that did need to be vectorized. Now I can, of course, do stuff and trace it, but I don't want to just do a tracing. I want to actually do the full-on illustration in Illustrator. So this is really just my pencil sketch, just to sort of get things working. I'm quite happy with it. I don't know if I like the drop shadow. I'll have to think about that when I do it in Illustrator. There's stuff I can actually add in if I wanted to. So I got rid of the all of the like the wording underneath. In the end, I felt it was just messy, as well as I was going to do like a circular sort of treatment. I don't know what that was going to be, but I sort of thought I'd actually just use a circle there to try to sort of add something to the illustration back in that part of it. But in the end, I didn't really like it. I wanted to balance the darkness of the. Actually, one thing I do need to do is I need to go and just put some little white dots in around this part of the there. That's just going to give a little bit of detail to the eye patch, and so I just wanted to do something in through there. I do want this to be fairly accurate because I will be wanting to try to get the line widths illustratively done in Illustrator as well, and I guess the better the sketch that I have underneath, the better that whole process will be. I might just quickly draw in a little bit of a line back in through here, and I don't know exactly how I want this to go in Illustrator, but yeah, it's one of these things where I'll know when I start doing it as to what I want it to end up looking like. That might be alright just to have like even a shadowy aspect to it. But I'm wanting to do this just purely in black and white to start with, and then go from there. So what I will now do is I'll save this, and then we'll move across into Illustrator and copy this one into a template layer, and then I'll talk more about the Illustrator perspective of this. Okay, so let's just set up the file for merchandise. Basically, the most common, if I just go to new, the most common size will actually be 3000 by 3000. So I've got a custom one in through here. I'll just have a quick look, just see what the settings actually are. So we've got 3000 by 3000. We're talking about pixels, which is fine. Advanced options, it's going to be RGB, which is fine, and the PPI is 72. I might just change that just to 300. Just high raster effects, which isn't going to really worry this at all, but it's because we are just going to be dealing in pixels at the end of the day. But RGB color will be fine for this. It'll work best because it is going to go out to a ping file, and ping files are RGB. So we'll work that way. That way we end up with a nice pure black, and we can go from there. If I need to convert it to CMYK at some point, then that's okay. I'll be trying to work with it in a sense that I can actually colorize it at some point if I want to, but I'm going to be focusing on the black and white in this instance. So we'll just go and create the actual file itself. Now you're going to see a lot of stuff in here, which is going to be it's going to look fairly messy. I will get rid of a few of these things, but I do like to have a lot of the stuff that I have on this side here I use because I need to use Illustrator to do very exact work. So this is a 3000 by 3000. Let's just go back to Photoshop. Where are we? And we'll just go and copy this one. Now I tend to, I don't know if I can just copy the layer. It should just copy straight across. It should even probably just open up. I'll just go and Control C, and then come back across, Control V. Yep, so it's come back into this scale, which is fine. And I can then just enlarge this to sort of fit nicely in that 3000 by 3000. Now, ultimately, it's probably going to be too big really to be using on a t-shirt as such. So I'll probably end up having it a bit smaller anyway, I would think. Now that's going to be, I don't want to be stretching that, just press shift. In Photoshop, you no longer have to press shift, but in Illustrator you do. And I'm just trying to sort of center this one in the middle. You can see there that we've got a lot of space around it, which won't matter. I mean, it's the 3000 by 3000 is just really where we're sort of going. Actually, I might just Alt-Shift click that and just drag that one up a little bit. Just want to get the right sort of sizing. I am going to create a second layer. Now, I don't like the red levels on the side there, as you can sort of see through this one. So I'm just going to double click that one, and actually what I will do is I'm just going to drag the file into there, move that one down to the very bottom, and I'm just going to call this one Trace. We're not tracing it as such, but it is just for my tracing. Double click it and then make that a template, and what that one does is it dims the images to 50%. That may not be enough. I'm going to try 30% and just sort of see how that one does work, and it's going to lock it anyway as well when I do this. So it now becomes a locked layer that is now really sort of there ready for doing the illustration underneath it. Now, I use a series of plugins from a group called Astute Graphics, and really it changes Illustrator from being a bit of a pedestrian program nowadays, to be honest. Like it used to be the world leader in what it does, but it hasn't really developed all that much over recent years. But I do find that the Astute Graphics plugins really change this dramatically. So you'll see a lot of things like Vector First Aid, Dynamic Shapes, Dynamic Sketch, which is what we're going to be using predominantly in through here, Auto Savior. All of these things are plugins from Astute Graphics. It does cost a bit, but I do use this program a fair bit to do icons and things like that. So I tend to be using, I need the specific things like the dynamic measure, the direct preferences. These sorts of things are an absolute godsend for the work that I actually do. You know, for my day job. Maybe I'll show you very briefly just a project that I did just before Christmas. So this was actually a project that was done for an animation. So I did the animation as well, but I needed to have actual assets, like fairly large assets that could then sort of be used. So these were done as isometrics. So I had like a whole lot of isometrics that were sort of then done for an actual project. And it's great. Like Illustrator's fantastic for this because it can be sort of blown up to any size and you don't lose any quality. Anyway, that was for that one there, but we're going to be doing something a bit different this time. So I would not use that was all done with mouse. That was I don't think much of it would have been done with a tablet. In this instance, I do tend to sort of be using predominantly just the mouse for using Illustrator, but in this case, I wanted to have an excuse to do something with Dynamic Sketch. Now I've got Dynamic Sketch set up. I'll just go through a few of the things that Astute Graphics does bring in. What they do actually have is they've got like the paintbrush tool, which is just a paintbrush tool. They do actually have, now where the hell is it? I'll just try to find it. And I haven't set this thing up to sort of work this one. I've set up my keyboard shortcut. So D, yeah, I'm getting Dynamic Sketch now. So Dynamic Sketch is coming through here. And what this is it's a tool that I can use to do different things with it down through this side. It's an amazing tool. And so it's got like sketching speed is now going to be changing the size. But I want that to be stylus pressure, and I want that to be black line work with no fill. And so when I start to sort of then draw on it, I'll just go back to layer 1, back over here. When I start to then sort of draw, it's got I can start to use thicks and thins. See how it's not doing the thick and thin initially. It's just keeping it sort of fairly stock standard. It's got stylus pressure on there, but it's not kicking in. And so what I need to do is I'm just going to change a few of the settings for the stroke. Just get some round corners in there. I will actually go and select that one and delete it. This one here, I do want to make sure that by default it's going to go to stylus pressure, and I want this to be fairly large. If I just go and click on this one here, I'll make it just say 40. Just try that one and see how that one sort of then works. Yeah, so I've got now nice sort of thicks and thins, and that's probably about the size that I want. So that should do okay. Now, what I can then do once I start to sort of draw with this is, like some of the elements will be drawn using this. Other elements will be drawn using, well, probably still this, but without the actual stylus pressure. So I'll sort of pick and choose what I end up sort of doing this one on. One of the great things about this though is I can sort of draw like another sketch, press the shift, and I can then sort of start to delete sections of it if I don't like it which is really cool. Like, it makes it very, very quick to make use of. Now this one has still not come through with the corner. Just go and sort of place those on there. It makes it look a bit more illustrative to actually have the corner in there. I'll just go and delete that one and just make sure that is now sort of set there. So this is now 40 point is going to be the weight, and 40 point down to 0 point down through here. Now I don't think I can get it down to 0 point. I can get it pretty close, but not really. Now I am using the keyboard shortcut. I'm not really used to using the My Quick keys in this instance, and I will sort of be sort of zooming in a little bit and just working on aspects of this as we sort of then go. So I sort of want to just sort of draw in the elements that are going to be required. Now I don't like that. There's a slight. There is a slight, what is it, a string. So I've got a string of 10 pixels just to sort of help smooth out the lines. And if I don't like this, one of the things that I will tend to do with this is have a quick look and see what the width factor is. So if I go to the width tool and click on these things, how many width lines do we actually have? We've got shitloads actually, unfortunately, and I don't want this number. I don't want this many of them in here. I want to be able to control these afterwards in a very, very exact fashion. You can sort of see there there's so many of them, and this becomes a problem. Yeah, so what I can do actually is just go, like I've stripped out the width points from this particular one. It's now a bit too thick. I can just select that one and just sort of bring that one back in if I want to. And similarly down into the bottom here, I can just tweak the end points with what we're actually doing. And so this one over here, we've got like a lot of points. So I just need to shift click on the ones I want to get rid of. Probably want to get rid of those there, and then just press delete. That gets rid of those. Then this side as well, just shift click and drag and grab those, delete those. So that way we've just got like a single point. I just go and grab that one, drag that one in a little bit. Probably make this one go out a little bit out this way. I can, if I press the Alt key, I can then sort of make them go asymmetrical as well, so I can actually sort of change things. I'll just sort of, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through now and pretty much paint like this. Now there's a lot of work to strip out and get the shapes that I'm looking for with this drawing tool. Now I could do the same thing with the brush, I guess, but I do really like the dynamic sketch tool. So if I just press D, and I've got a fair few settings set up on this thing, by the way. Like if I go into the preferences, there's a fair few different things you can set up and through here. This is sort of what I'm looking for. I might ignore sketches shorter than 6 pixels. I might turn that one off, I think, because sometimes you just want to draw like a dot and it won't let you then do it. So you can see there, that's not really sort of doing what I want it to do. I will actually sort of tweak these things as we go. Anyway, there will be some lines that I won't want to be doing the really, really finessed sort of look to it, but most of them I probably will. So I just want to keep this one looking really, really clean. Now, the width, still got it there. I'm just going to change that one back up to 40 again. Just keep that one so that it's consistent. So still got the round corners. This one's all okay. And I'll just start to sort of draw in the different components and just sort of see how they go. They may get a little bit too sort of thick at different times. I don't mind if it goes over different areas. I will sort of come back and clean those areas up. So that one's okay. So I still want it to be illustrative. So what I can then do is just press the shift, and I can then sort of delete the lines that we don't want to have encroaching out across the other side. I can then sort of tweak the other ones as well. Like that's now all joined up, but that's okay. But overall, that's looking pretty reasonable. I do like the look of that one now. It's got a bit more sort of strength in what's been done. So the graphic itself now is quite good. What I need to do now is just sort of set the this color in here to be black and white. So if I go and click on that one, I'll just see what happens if I delete that one. I like that as well. It's just simplified it and made these into white. Well, they're see-through at this stage. But that's actually that sort of is looking quite good. I really don't mind this at all. So it's coming up quite nicely. So as far as a black and white, this one is now ready to go. So that's sort of like just a mono, like a black and white version. Now for t-shirts, I may decide to actually do this into a single color, but I'll keep that one where that is. We can now get rid of our trace layer, so I'll just delete that one. We no longer need it anymore. But the the pen works fine. Like it comes up really quite nicely. So what I can do here is I can make a color version of it if I wanted to. So I will do that. I'll change all of the actual colors with this. I'll now make a t-shirt out of this. I'll just change this. There'll probably be a few little things that I need to tweak just to make it so that it sort of does look okay. But that's pretty much the that's like it's a fairly muted sort of color, but I can certainly boost it up if I wanted to. But that is looking like a reasonable illustration. Just double click, just make sure I have nothing selected. Yep, that's okay. So if I just double click, so we've now got I've got a mono version which I can then change into whatever I want. So with that one selected, that one's just black. So I can, if I wanted to, just make that one into that same sort of grey. Actually, it's the wrong colour. Just grab it from there. And I can then sort of just create ping files now of these and bring them across into the different t-shirts. But this will work out, I think, fairly nicely on different coloured t-shirts. So I'll need to maybe create like a few different versions. So I'll have a link in the description there, guys, if you are interested. There will be some t-shirts available. So anyway, I hope that was interesting. I don't really have a lot of these are all vectorized, so it doesn't matter how much I zoom in, they're not going to lose quality. So it's I prefer doing my graphics this way. So I've kept it all sort of flat colours, which I do like the feel of this sort of graphic sort of style when it's done this way. I could be putting in different highlights and stuff like that, but I don't think I'll do that for this. I think I'll just keep it nice and clean. So I'll create a few different versions and we'll go from there. So I hope you enjoyed that process. And as I say, this is different to what most illustrators do. This is much more of a graphic design approach to doing illustration. I did want to sort of test out the... Oh, hang on. These are the things that didn't come through. Yeah, so that's that is going to be the final one. But I will actually maybe sort of experiment a little bit more with this. I might just create some more sort of graphic styles as well. But if you are interested, have a look at the link that I leave for the various merchandise. You may be interested. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Oh, by the way, I mean, I should finish up with the bit of a discussion about the tablet. I do use the tablet, as you can sort of see, with the different things. I think in these Adobe programs, it's fairly forgiving. Like the Eclipse Studio, I really did need to finesse it because it felt like I needed to be much more exact. I guess if you're an illustrator and you are using the tablet for Photoshop and you're doing like full-on illustrations, you may want to experiment a little bit with that one. But as I say, it was hard to set up because of Windows Ink. After it was set up, it was great, but up until then, it was quite painful. It did take a bit of time to get that one sorted. But other than that, yeah, it's been a good experience. I have really liked the tablet a lot. Like it feels good drawing with it, even though it's not as big as my old tablet. It still doesn't. It's not that much smaller. And so I would like to try maybe a larger tablet again at some point in the future after I've gotten used to this one. But I am finding that, you know, it's doing everything I want this one to do. It's very, very responsive. As I said, the only program that I've really had troubles with it is Artrage, but I hardly ever use that particular program, and I think it's more to do with Windows and Artrage itself. Artrage not supporting the latest Windows drivers, etc., and Windows approach, and also Windows itself then having the sort of crappy approach to sort of doing their apps, you know, like their Windows Ink app. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, but I do recommend this tablet. It's an enjoyable tablet to use. This is just a bit of an addendum to the end of this thing. I have tweaked the illustration a little bit. What I've done is I've thinned out the line that was at the base, just to sort of keep that one fairly consistent with the other line weights. It was a bit too heavy. I also thickened the line at the top for the same reason, just to sort of get consistent line weights around the outside edge a little bit. The focal point is still definitely the eye, and that's really where I want it to be. I was finding that this was just a little bit too heavy and was competing with that. I also did sort of thin out the points back in around here as well, so they've sort of all been thinned out, and then I've just sort of re-rendered it back out. So that's the line work version. Not many other changes in there. I don't think there's any other changes. I did put little shadow areas back into there as well, just to sort of, it looked a little bit too straight. So I've sort of just tweaked that one as well. If we just go across to the next version, this is the color version. And so I have kept the actual patch, I've kept that as a darker grey. It's very similar to the actual outline color. I've also put in a very, very pale yellow. I don't know if you can see that actually. Looks like it's not showing up. There we are. Sorry, there we go. We just go to the color version. There's a pale yellow outline, just very, very pastel. This is just so that this can then sit on colored artwork. And so I've just outlined that just enough to sort of color in the negative space areas back into here, just so that they'll also then be colored that way. So I've got an option there. I didn't mind it actually even as the dark color on the outside. So if it's a pale shirt, I may actually make that pale yellow into the outline color, into the dark color. What I did also then was just change, I made some highlights. I don't know if I did that one yesterday. Just put some white in it, and I did put some little highlights on the eyeball. I think that did help it a lot. Again, just to make it purely the focal point. So that one certainly does now come back into the overall scheme of things. But again, you can see there the thinner line weight certainly does help it a lot. Just with it's funny how the next day when you have a look at things, you do notice so many other little things that you should have changed. I also had knocked out this little point in through there, so that's now been knocked out through the just in between the earring and where the ear sort of piece sort of comes back into it. And then finally the last version is this one here, and this is a tonal version. And so what I've got through this side is I've just put some basic tone in here just to, I guess, give it some busyness, and again just to sort of push the eyeball out. So I'm not sure if I'll use this one. I don't mind it. I do like the look of when we have tone like this, you know, that just sort of a big thick dot, just to sort of give it like an old cartoon sort of feel. You know, from the from the 50s and 60s, where they had sort of like a very, very thick dot when they were doing their printing. And so this is what was it? Letraset was the sort of thing that you'd actually put down the tone itself. So I've sort of left a bit of a tone in through there as well. just another option so that when I'm doing like single color, I'll have a look and see how that one does go. So again, if you are interested in the t-shirts, these will be there'll be a link in the description leading to where the t-shirts will be available if you are wanting those. Otherwise, this is really just an exercise to sort of show how to use the or how I've been using the tablet, the Xencelabs Tablet or Tablet Bundle, to really sort of just go ahead and now start to do sort of more graphic elements where there is where this is now all vectorized. This is much more exact, I guess. It doesn't look it, but I've got much more control over the illustration than what I had in when I was doing it in Clip Studio, just simply because of this is a graphic treatment and not an illustrative treatment. It's still illustrative, but in a graphic way. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Actually, God, it keeps on flicking to different things in there. I will just go back to the color version. I think that is, at this stage, probably my favorite. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's going to be a long one again, so my apologies about that, but I do want to sort of be fairly thorough, I guess, in showing the use of the tablet. A lot of the tweaking was done using the mouse, not really with the tablet itself, but it is handy having the tablet there. I'll catch you next time.